Hey everyone, welcome back. You ready to get philosophical? Today we're doing a deep dive into Friedrich Nietzsche.
Ooh, Nietzsche.
Yeah, we're looking specifically at his ideas about history.
Okay.
From his book, The Use and Abuse of History for Life. I know you all out there like to get to the point, so we're going to figure out why Nietzsche thought being obsessed with history could actually be a bad thing.
Yeah.
And we'll unpack what he thought we should be doing instead.
So what's really interesting is that Nietzsche doesn't completely dismiss history.
Okay.
He wants us to be more mindful of how we engage with it. Almost like, think of it like a really powerful tool. Like if you use it correctly, it can build amazing things. But if you misuse it, it can cause some serious damage.
Okay. So what kind of damage are we talking about?
Well, Nietzsche argues that if you focus too much on the past, you can get what he calls historical sickness.
Historical sickness.
Yeah.
It's like you're so focused on the rearview mirror that you end up crashing, right?
He believes that this can manifest in three specific ways.
Okay.
Paralysis of action,
Okay.
stifling of creativity, and loss of vitality.
Whoa. Historical sickness. That's a pretty intense idea. Let's break it down a little bit. What do you mean by paralysis of action?
So think about it this way. You're about to make a big decision, but you're so busy analyzing your past successes and failures, you actually become afraid to take any action at all. You're stuck overthinking, unable to move forward.
Right. Yeah, I get that. It's like when you have to choose between like 20 different brands of cereal at the grocery store.
Right.
You end up spending like 20 minutes just staring at the boxes, completely overwhelmed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just cereal. Imagine that, but apply that to major life choices or like career moves or relationships.
Oh, yeah.
That's the paralysis that Nietzsche warns us about.
Okay, so overthinking the past makes us freeze up in the present. What about stifling creativity?
Well, imagine you're an artist.
Okay.
But you're so focused on like the masters, right? The masters of the past.
Yeah.
That you become afraid to experiment or break from tradition or to develop your own style. So you end up being a copycat instead of an innovator.
Oh, so it's like staying in your comfort zone, never venturing beyond what's already been done.
Exactly. That's how focusing too much on the past can stifle creativity. Now, the third danger, the loss of vitality, is a little more subtle, but just as dangerous.
Loss of vitality. Tell me more about that one.
So Nietzsche actually believed that dwelling on the past can disconnect us from the vibrancy of the present moment. You become so fixated on what was that, you lose the joy of what is.
Right.
You know, it's like watching a movie of your life instead of actually living it.
Yeah. So to avoid this historical sickness, we need to find a healthier way to engage with the past. Nietzsche actually talks about three specific uses for history. What are those?
He calls them monumental, antiquarian, and critical history. Almost like, think of these as different lenses through which we can view the past.
Okay. I love practical examples. Could you give me like a concrete example for each of those?
Yeah. So let's start with monumental history.
Okay.
Imagine you're feeling discouraged about a personal goal, right? You might look to an inspiring figure from history, like think Martin Luther King or Marie Curie or Nelson Mandela. Their stories of struggle and triumph. Those can fuel your own ambition and resilience.
Oh, so it's like we can find fuel for our aspirations in the stories of those who came before us.
Exactly.
I like that. What about antiquarian history?
Antiquarian history, it's all about connecting to our roots.
Okay.
Preserving traditions or rituals or customs that give us a sense of belonging and continuity. Think of like family recipes passed down through generations or cultural celebrations that link us to our heritage.
Right, like the glue that holds communities and cultures together.
Yes.
Okay. Now what about the third one, critical history?
So this is where we use history to learn from past mistakes and to challenge harmful patterns. Like think about examining historical injustices like slavery or the Holocaust. By understanding these dark chapters, we can actually work towards creating a more just and equitable future.
Yeah. So monumental history inspires us, antiquarian history connects us, and critical history teaches us.
Yeah.
But how do we use these different histories without falling into those traps of like excessive historical focus that we were talking about before?
Right. That's where Nietzsche's concept of active forgetting comes in.
Active forgetting.
Yes.
Right.
Now, before you get worried, he's not saying that we should just ignore history entirely.
Okay.
What he's talking about is being selective about what we hold on to,
Okay.
what we choose to remember.
So, filtering the past, letting go of the things that weigh us down. But how do we know what to let go of? What's the criteria?
The key here is to ask yourself, Is this piece of history serving me?
Hmm.
Is it inspiring me? Is it guiding me? Or is it helping me critique harmful patterns? If not, then it might be time to practice some active forgetting.
Oh, I like that. It's like cleaning out your mental closet,
Yeah.
getting rid of the baggage that's no longer serving you and making space for new growth.
Exactly. It's about making history work for you, not the other way around.
Right.
Remember, you are the architect of your life, not a prisoner of the past.
Hmm. I like that. Now, I know Nietzsche was pretty critical of the way academics approached history. Why was that?
Well, he felt that academics often got so bogged down in all the minutiae, the dates and details, that they missed the forest for the trees. He believed that they failed to connect history to the vibrancy of lived experience.
So he wanted history to be more than just a collection of dusty facts.
Exactly. He wanted history to be alive, engaging. He wanted it to be relevant to the challenges and opportunities of the present moment. He was especially critical of what he called historicism.
Hold on. What exactly is historicism?
So, historicism is the idea that the present can only be understood through the lens of the past. And Nietzsche believed that this actually limited our ability to shape our own destiny and create new possibilities.
Oh, so he felt that being overly reliant on the past could restrict our vision for the future.
That's right.
Yeah.
He saw it as a form of intellectual and cultural paralysis that would prevent us from evolving and creating something truly new. So think about this. Do you think academics today are doing a good job of making history relevant and engaging?
Hmm. That's a great question for you to think about.
Or are they still stuck in that old pattern of dry facts and dates?
That is a great question. And I think we should all take a moment to ponder that question. As we're talking about all these ideas of historical sickness and active forgetting, I can't help but think about how relevant this is to all of our lives right now.
Yeah.
We're constantly being bombarded with information about the past.
Mm.
On social media, these news cycles that seem to be obsessed with digging up old controversies, it's like we're drowning in history.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, and it really ties into one of Nietzsche's most important ideas. History should serve life, not the other way around.
Right.
We need to be careful not to let the past consume our present or dictate our future.
So how do we find that balance? How do we learn from history without being weighed down by it all?
I think one way is to become more aware of how we're actually using history.
Okay.
Are we using it to fuel our ambitions, like with monumental history?
Hmm.
Are we using it to connect with our roots, like with antiquarian history? Or are we using it to critique harmful patterns and strive for a better future, like with critical history?
Right. It's like choosing the right tool for the job. Like you wouldn't use a hammer to tighten a screw, right? We need to be just as discerning with how we apply history to our own lives.
Exactly. And just as important as knowing how to use history, I think, is knowing when to let go.
Okay.
Remember Nietzsche's idea of active forgetting.
Uh-huh.
It's not about erasing the past, but it's choosing to focus on the aspects that empower us, the lessons that help us grow, and the memories that bring us joy.
So how can we actually practice this active forgetting in our lives? What does that look like, practically speaking?
Well, I think it starts with becoming aware of the thoughts and feelings that are holding us back. Are we constantly replaying past mistakes over and over in our minds? Are we clinging to grudges or resentments that are just poisoning our present?
Yeah, it's like we're carrying around a backpack full of rocks. We might not even realize how much it's weighing us down until we start taking some of those rocks out.
Exactly. And sometimes active forgetting means simply choosing to shift our focus. Instead of dwelling on a past failure, we can choose to focus on the lessons we learned and the ways we've grown from that.
Right. So it's about reframing our relationship with the past, seeing it as a source of wisdom and resilience rather than a source of shame or regret.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Nietzsche wasn't a big fan of academics and their approach to history. Why was that?
Well, Nietzsche actually believed that a lot of academics approached history with this kind of sterile objectivity, dissecting it like a specimen under a microscope.
Okay.
He felt they often lost sight of the human element, the passion, the drama, the messy reality of what lived experience really is.
Yeah, it's like studying the notes on a musical score without ever actually listening to the symphony.
That's a great analogy. And Nietzsche felt that this detached approach to history actually led to another problem: historicism.
Right.
He saw it as a dangerous ideology that really limited our potential for growth and creativity.
Right. Remind me again, what is historicism and why did Nietzsche consider it so dangerous?
So, historicism is the belief that the present can only be understood through the lens of the past.
Okay.
It's almost like saying we're trapped by history, destined to repeat the same patterns over and over again.
So it's like saying that everything that happens today is simply a consequence of what happened yesterday, and there's no room for free will or the possibility of creating something truly new.
Exactly. Nietzsche really rejected this deterministic view. He believed that we have the power to shape our own destiny, to break free from the shackles of the past, and to create a future that reflects our own values and aspirations.
So for Nietzsche, history wasn't a cage, but a springboard. It's not about being bound by the past, but learning from it and then launching ourselves into the future. I think it's important to acknowledge, though, that Nietzsche's views can be controversial.
Oh, yeah?
He's been accused of everything from elitism to nihilism. How do you respond to those criticisms?
It's true. Nietzsche's ideas, they can be challenging, even provocative at times.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to engage with them thoughtfully and to really consider the nuances of his arguments
Right.
and to avoid these simplistic interpretations. Like, for example, his concept of the Superman is often misunderstood.
Oh, yeah, the Superman.
Yeah.
That's one of his most famous and, dare I say, notorious ideas.
Right.
What did he mean by that? Was he talking about some kind of superhuman being with extraordinary powers?
Not at all. Nietzsche's Superman is not about physical strength or dominance.
Okay.
It's about a kind of spiritual and intellectual evolution, like transcending conventional morality and the creation of new values that affirm life in all its complexity and beauty.
So it's about pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible, about embracing our full potential as human beings, not just physically, but intellectually and creatively as well.
Exactly. It's about striving for a life of meaning and purpose,
Right.
a life that is driven by passion, creativity, and a deep appreciation for the world around us.
I love that. It's not about being superhuman, but about being fully human,
Mhm.
about embracing all that life has to offer. Now, as we start to wrap up our exploration of Nietzsche's ideas, I want to bring it back to our listeners and their own lives. How can we apply these concepts in a practical way?
Well, I think one of the most important things we can do is to become more conscious of how we're using history in our own lives. Are we allowing the past to define us,
Right.
to limit our possibilities, or to hold us back from pursuing our dreams?
Or are we using it as a source of inspiration, guidance, and wisdom as we navigate the challenges and opportunities of the present moment?
Precisely. And remember, it's not about erasing the past, but about choosing to focus on the aspects that empower us, the lessons that help us grow, and the memories that bring us joy.
Right. It's about making history work for us, not the other way around. We have the power to choose how we relate to the past and how we create our future. You know, it's really amazing how Nietzsche's ideas from over a century ago still resonate so much today.
I know.
The world has changed so much, but it seems like the challenges of being human, figuring out the past and present to make a good future, haven't really changed.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one of the reasons Nietzsche's work still means so much is because, well, he gives us a way to deal with some of the anxieties of our time, like being overwhelmed with information and choices.
Right, exactly. And not knowing what the future holds.
Yeah, we're bombarded with stuff all the time. It can feel like you're standing at the edge of the unknown, and that can be scary.
For sure. So how can Nietzsche help us deal with this feeling?
Well, one thing he talks about is amor fati.
Amor fati.
It means love of fate.
Okay.
But it's not about just accepting anything that happens. It's more about facing the good and the bad with courage, maybe even gratitude.
So it's like finding meaning in the journey itself, no matter what the outcome is.
Yes, exactly. It's about seeing the ups and downs of life as chances to learn and grow. And this connects to another big idea of Nietzsche's, creating yourself.
Oh, interesting.
He believed we're not just shaped by our past, but we can actually choose who we are and what we value. We create our own destiny.
It's like we're artists.
Yeah.
And our lives are the artwork. We can make something meaningful even when the world feels chaotic.
Yes, exactly. And this self-creation takes courage, being creative, and being okay with not knowing everything. You have to let go of the need to be certain and just go on the adventure.
As we finish up our deep dive into Nietzsche, I'd love to know what stuck with you. What idea really hit home? Maybe it's the active forgetting thing, or using history to empower yourself, or even this amor fati, loving your fate.
Yeah, whatever it is, let it sink in and think about how you can use it in your life. Because Nietzsche isn't about finding easy answers or rules to follow.
Right.
It's about thinking critically, living bravely, and creating a life that's full of meaning.
So as we wrap up, remember, History is a powerful tool, but you get to decide how to use it. Choose wisely what you bring from the past, be brave in the present, and use your creativity to shape your future. Thanks for joining us on this Nietzsche deep dive. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep living life to the fullest.